All right, folks, welcome to another episode of Off the Crossbar. I am your host, Pete Eibner, the coach, and this is my main man, my co-coach, Adam the MISL, and we are here from the basement of a bank to talk about all things Baltimore soccer, all things national team soccer, all things international soccer, and of course, our show, Coach, is brought to you by none other than the best chiropractor in the business, Dr. Adam Maddox at Ideal Health Chiropractic. He will straighten your spine out and fix you up good.
I believe it.
I just went to him last week, and before I walked in there, my back was jacked up, Coach. Let me tell you something. I was walking around and moving like the guy from that movie where he was on the crutches and he was moving weird.
Happy Gilmore when the car hits him?
No, not Happy Gilmore. The other one. The one with the guy with the...
Meet the Fockers, or when he has his back problem?
No. The other one where he's bending over and Cameron Diaz is in it.
Oh, there's something about Mary.
Yeah. That's the way I was going into that office. Dr. Adam Maddox used these they're like little massage guns, and they're like... Fixed my back up, and I went out of there. I was like, you know who I was like? You know how I left the building?
How?
I was like Carlton. I was doing the Carlton dance all the way down the hall. I felt so good. I feel so great. Thank you, Dr. Adam. You are the man. And now, we are ready to kick off the show. How do we kick off the show, Miz?
The mystery question of the week.
The mystery question of the week. We get to see what's inside this man's beautiful mind. It could be soccer. It could be football. It could be ice hockey. It could be movies. It could be lizards. It could be anything. What you got for me now?
Actually, you were close. You were in the same zip code of the mystery question for this week. A lot of sports things going on. Congratulations to the St. Louis Blues, who won a Stanley Cup last night. Game 7 in Boston, tough task. They pulled it off. So, and I like, a lot of different sports. I'm interested. If you weren't a soccer coach, right, and take us through a 15-second championship game huddle of you coaching a different sport.
What sport do you want me to coach?
Whatever sport you like. Like, if you weren't a soccer coach, what sport would it be? And then take us in that huddle for that championship game.
If I weren't a soccer coach, I would have to say that I would be a football coach.
Okay.
Because I think football coaches have the best gig in the world because they all have the headsets on. I don't even know if anybody's on the other end. It just looks cool. But for the sake of the mystery question of the day, I want to tell you one of the most fascinating sports I've ever watched is high school badminton. And I would like to be a high school badminton coach or maybe a high school chess coach just so I could yell at a kid.
Well, it has to be one or the other. And then I want that 15 seconds of you bringing the kids in, you're trying to rally them to win the championship game. Give it to us. If it's badminton, let's go.
We are going to go with chess.
Okay.
Because I would like to see just a motivated chess coach. Like, let me tell you something. You guys are playing like a bunch of pawns. You guys aren't moving laterally. You're not moving diagonally. You call that crowning, MISL. You got to get better at the crowning. And then I'd be all over the referee. He's not hitting the clock, ref. He's not hitting the clock. They got to punch the clock. And that's the way I would go with it.
And I will say, for the record, that's the most intense person or, intense behavior I've ever seen at chess.
Yeah, you would see me thrown out of every chess match, but it would be great. I don't know why chess does not have a coach like that.
I feel like Russians always excel at chess. I'm not sure why, but...
Because they're drunk.
Okay.
They have the time. They're just hitting the vodka.
And they're just thinking of moves, huh?
Well, that is the mystery question of the day. Where would I coach if I weren't a soccer coach? And do you have anything you would do? What would be your sport?
I would probably do hockey. I really love hockey, and that would be mine.
Very cool.
It wasn't soccer, but
awesome sport. Want to tell them about the show we got lined up today, Coach? Because we got a big one.
We got a great show for you. We're going to go over some of the stuff that's happening on the global setting for soccer. 2 big events that occurred in the past couple days, both on the men's team and women's team. We'll cover that. We have a special guest today, Coach.
I know it. I feel it.
It's some guy named Tarik. He's been around.
That's right. We're coming up with Baltimore Blast legend Tarik Walker. And Okay, by the way, can we use the Blast theme song?
No!
Zod says no.
Yep.
Okay, but we got Tarik Walker, and of course, this is a week we finally get the one-on-one interview with Landon Donovan in studio. So we are off the crossbar, and we will be right back. Parents, kids, players, if you were looking for a camp this summer, look no further than Pete Caringi's All-Maryland Soccer Camp. It's where I started to coach. When I was 18 years old, I was playing college, and Pete Caringi asked me to work his camp. Best move I ever made. I learned how to coach, but not only that, I learned how to connect with kids, and I watched it from the master, Pete Caringi. Pete Caringi has developed more players out of the Baltimore area and coached more kids and brought the game to a higher level than anyone else I know. He puts his heart into it, knows the kids by name, has more energy than 5 other coaches put together, and I'm not kidding about that. So check out All Maryland Soccer Camps, Pete Caringi, website's right here. It's a blast. It is the most fun a young player can have. And if you have a very young player that's more talented than the group he's in, Pete recognizes that, moves him into a more challenging area. And the development of these kids is outstanding. I swear by it. Welcome back to Off the Crossbar. We are now fired up.
I'm fired up.
How fired up are you?
There's no scale that can tell you.
I'm telling you, this is an exciting moment. We have coming to the basement of a bank to do our show a man that needs no introduction anywhere in the civilized world. He is an 11-year veteran of the Baltimore Blast. He won 3 championships as a player, and who knows how many as a coach, but there was a lot. He also was the head coach of the Harrisburg Heat. He also played on the national team from Grenada. I'm not exactly sure how to say it, but he played on their national team. He's right now, as we speak, you can hear the music playing, Coach. You can hear it playing.
The bank security has a personal escort.
He's coming out. He's stepping between the L and the A and the word blast. The lights are going off. There's fireworks. Give it up to number 9 in your program, but number 1 in your hearts, Tarik Walker. Listen to that applause, man. Usually they're not this rambunctious.
Yeah, they gotta calm down a little bit.
Man, welcome to the basement of a bank.
Yeah.
How you doing, buddy? Good?
I'm surprised that I'm in the basement of a bank, but yeah, that's all right.
We have spared no expense to put you in an underground bunker safe from anything that could go wrong.
Yeah.
If a nuclear bomb hits Baltimore right now, your soccer career keeps moving forward.
Right, and I would have you to thank for it, so I appreciate that.
No problem. And by the way,
one thing we gotta get him in right away is he's gotta learn the wave. I mean, any chance we get to add a member, we gotta take full advantage.
Okay, so you know how people in Jeeps, when they pass each other, they give this?
Yeah, okay.
You know how people on motorcycles, when they drive by, they give this?
Yeah.
Well, because we are in the head shaven club, when we see each other, we greet like this. So,
right.
Tarik, welcome to the club.
Yeah.
There
All
it is.
right.
Yep,
there
he's got
is.
it. Yep.
There it is.
Our wolf pack used to be just me and co-coach Adam. Then Timmy Whitman joined, right? And then I saw a guy at a gas station, but I'm not sure what his name was, but he gave me the, and now you. Our wolf pack is now 5.
There we go.
A 5-man wolf pack running through Baltimore, hiding in the basement of a bank. Join the movement.
I love it.
I love it.
So, Tarik, tell us, where did you start playing? How did you start playing? And how did you get so good?
Oh, well, started back when I was 5 years old, living in D.C. My dad was All-American at Howard University, and so that's what got me started. He played for a Grenada national team as well. And so started at a young age and just went on from there.
So when you were playing, who were the coaches that drove you a little bit?
Well, I had some very good coaches when I was younger, but my club team coach, when we really started to really develop into playing some serious soccer, was Sonny Askew at that time. And so that was very, very motivating to play for him.
Absolutely. Sonny Askew, by the way, pound for pound, best player ever to come out of Baltimore.
Which is a timeless debate.
Yeah, well, I would love to have that debate with all who dare to step to the basement
But
of a bank.
he's certainly in the conversation, no doubt.
Yeah. So you go in, you're playing your youth soccer for Sonny. Where does that lead?
Well, from there, it led to playing at Virginia Tech. I got a scholarship to Virginia Tech, played for Jerry Chenet there, and from there, I ended up playing against the Baltimore team, playing against UMBC a couple times, and the guys from the Blast and the Spirit at the time saw me playing against UMBC and drafted me here to Baltimore.
So what was that like? You're a DC guy. You get to come home, right? You're essentially coming home. You get to play at a pretty cool era in Baltimore soccer. The Spirit, if I remember the timeline, they kind of went through a rough patch. But right when you got there, things started to turn around, right?
Yeah, it did start to turn around. I think they had the Blast had just folded, and they had a couple years in the NPSL with the Spirit. And when I came back to, when I got drafted by the Spirit, we were in the NPSL, and it started to grow, and that league was growing. And so it was a good time, but it was a little bit of a change from folks that were remembering the Blast name and trying to now learn the Spirit again.
Right.
I want you to be completely honest. When you were on the Spirit, I want you to tell us and the viewers, how excited were you to have Jolly Rancher as a sponsor?
Yeah. Well, when I was on the Spirit, it was actually Long and Foster was a sponsor, and then Jolly Rancher was there a couple times. So yeah, I got a sweet tooth, so I had no problem with it.
That's good. Did you get free Jolly Ranchers?
Well, I wish we did, but we didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They did not, because I'm telling you right now, you put me in charge of the Spirit and Jolly Ranchers. You guys are on a sugar high pregame I am feeding you Jolly Ranchers.
Yeah.
You guys are going to be lit up before the game.
Yeah, I was a blow pop kid when I was coming up, so always had a few blow pops in the locker room and hit one at halftime, hit one before the game. So I was definitely on some sugar highs, even though it wasn't Jolly Rancher.
Okay.
And by the way, that is why he was number 9, because every time he went to the dentist, 9 cavities. So that's how he got to be number 9. So how did you get to be number 9 on a serious note?
Seriously, it was just a number that I always liked. One of my favorite players wore it, and so that was one of the things that I just wanted when I came out.
Yeah. Now, what's cool is sometimes numbers follow you, right? So sometimes it'll be like your idol wears that number. You wear that number. That number's pretty big in your family, yeah?
Yeah. It's a number that's going to stick now, we think. So I'm happy about starting that tradition, and hopefully my kids carry on.
Your son's playing now. Is he 9?
Yes, he
There
was
you go.
number 9. Yep.
Very cool.
Yep.
So, okay, so let's talk about now you're in Baltimore, you're with the Spirit. Where does that tie into your appearance with Granada?
Well, that whole time that I was playing indoor, I was also playing outdoor.
Right.
We were playing with the Bays here under Coach Kevin.
Was that USISL?
USISL at that time, yeah. And so there was a little bit of a transition from folks that were playing in the ASL. That broke up, and people were transferring into the USISL. And so during that time, I was traveling and playing for Grenada at the same time while I was playing indoor.
Okay, and what was your biggest game playing for them?
Grenada, we were in the World Cup, so I had 2 World Cup caps against Haiti. So my biggest game probably was the road game in Haiti, where it was just the atmosphere was unbelievable. Tons of people, tons of crowds, tons of fans, people banging on your bus on the way into the stadium. So
wow.
What year was
that?
this?
Was tremendous. That was 1999.
Okay.
Yep.
That is incredible.
And that was building up into the 2000 World Cup.
Very cool. Yep. Would you say that's one of the best experiences that you had as a soccer player, or better yet, what was your best experience as a player?
I think that was one of those that kind of set the tone for what you want it to be.
Right.
You're always thinking about accomplishing certain things, and I don't know about, we didn't have the team results that we wanted, but individually, you can look back on that time and say, I learned from it.
Right.
Another big game we had, I was played in Milwaukee in front of 17,000 in a game 7.
Wow.
of indoor nationals final. So definitely some big games that you always feel like you developed in under pressure.
How do you, as a player, like because they're very different, although there's some fundamental similarities between them, but how do you, as a player, when you're making a transition to go to an outdoor, environment where you're playing in World Cup scene, and then you've got to hurry up and put it all together and then go play indoor? Like, how does that, for a player, how does that play into the psyche, and how do you make those adjustments like that?
I loved it, the transition from indoor to outdoor, just because you were playing in such a confined space all the time, and it's the speed of play, and the ball never goes out. I always felt like when I was transitioned from indoor to outdoor, that was the easiest part. The transition from outdoor to indoor was a little bit more difficult. When you're playing with time and space in outdoor, going from indoor to outdoor and enjoying that time and space that I had, felt like I had all day to play.
Sure.
But transitioning from outdoor back into indoor, that was a little bit more difficult, because then you had to pick up the speed of play and movement.
Sure, makes sense.
So.
Now, did you specifically train a certain way for your outdoor season, or specifically for your indoor season? And if so, what did you do? What was the difference?
I think the difference mainly was the cardio. Indoor, it's quick sprint bursts, and where you can take the time and get off the field when you're tired. But outdoor, you have to extend your cardio a little bit. So that was the little differences, that you would take a little week or so to kind of extend your cardio, a little bit longer runs in order to play the outdoor season.
Well, yeah, when you look at it, it's funny. When you watch kids play indoor soccer, some coaches will leave the kids on there for 8 minutes at a time.
I don't know how they do it.
I had no clue.
Yeah.
But you watch the pros, and they're playing like boom, 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 off the field. Boom, boom, boom. Their shifts.
Can you do that again for us?
Boom, 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 off the field. Okay. That's actually the sound that they make. You just can't hear it because they got Lady Gaga playing on the loudspeaker during the game. Sure. But the shifts.
That's one thing I always say, is that indoor is a completely different game, and if you leave kids on too long, they're not getting to their full potential of what they can do on the field, and it's supposed to be an up and down sport.
Right.
And if you're on the field 4 or 5 minutes where you're standing around, you're not doing the right thing playing indoor.
Yeah, I agree with you. But pros, sometimes you're on for a minute.
Yeah.
Not
sometimes
even
30 seconds.
Sometimes 30 seconds, depending on situations. It's a very situational game, and so depending on how long you're on and what you're doing and what situations that play out, you could be definitely on the field for 45 seconds or so.
Yeah. So you go. Let's go. We're in the blast, right? You're in the blast on like let's call it like a resurrection. Blasts were big in the early '80s. It was the one thing to do. Colts had just left town. It was just bedlam here about indoor soccer, and then it kind of went through a phase where it kind of dropped off. I don't know about the play, but the interest maybe dropped off a little bit. You're here, the group of guys that you came up with in the blast kind of brought through a resurrection of indoor soccer to Baltimore, and that might still be carried on today. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it definitely was a transition stage where the MPSL turned into the MISL, and now into what the league is now, and some teams dropped off. Some local rivalries with Philadelphia dropped off, with Harrisburg dropped off for a little while. So there was a stage where the league itself had to build itself back up. And now it's really booming, where there's 40-something teams across the nation.
Yeah.
The attraction of the sport itself is, when you had the changes between the point systems and all, and I think they've really squared it down to a point system that they really like and enjoy, and it's bringing the fan back to understanding the game as it is right now.
Yeah.
So based on when you played and like the play that you see now, and just as you just finished up your coaching career in it, but do you feel like the level is about the same? Is it worse? Is it better? Like, where do you see from when you played overall to now? Like, where do you think it is?
The skills it has improved in the game.
Has it?
The players are a lot quicker, bigger, faster, stronger. It's always what you see in all sports now, and so that has improved the game. There's a little bit of toughness and grit that could come up in the game that we had back then. A little bit more competition, a bit. I can't really say that you want the fighting and all that we used to do a little bit in the games is out of it now, and that's probably good for the sport. But there's a little bit of grit there that you also like as a player, and you don't really see sometimes here. But I think the sport's gotten better, and again, for fans that really like the up and down, I think the sport's doing really well.
Who are the guys that you came up with the Blast that like if you had to think like guys that I did this with, that I accomplished this with, what circle of guys? And I know it's hard because you always leave somebody out by mistake, and then you got to call them up and go, hey man, I don't want to put you in that kind of spot, but you had a really special group and a lot of guys that played their college in Baltimore that I thought was like a really unique thing. Can you talk about that?
Couple of guys that come to mind: Lance Johnson, Barry Stitz, Jason Dieter, Derek Marcano. Those were the guys that were in that group that was really trying to bring the sport up and trying to compete. And we made it close a few times, but you remember the guys that really pushed you the most in that sport. I was very lucky to play for a long time, so I had a couple of the older guys that I played with, the Joe Bargers, the Joe Kozels, and then with the Barry Stitzes, and then a couple of younger guys, the P.J. Wakefields, the Jules Salenza, Mike Lookinglands, and those guys, Neto, and that crew. So, when you play a long time in the same sport and in the same city, you have players that you played with that always influence what you do.
Was there a cooler name that you ran across in your indoor career than my favorite name of all time in the indoor game, which is the goalkeeper Zoltan Toth?
That's a great name.
It's a great name. He had a great afro mullet going on. It was beautiful. I mean, he's got the coolest name. I mean, was he intimidating?
Zoltan, I never played against Zoltan, so I can't really say that. But Dennison was always the recognizable name. You got the tattoos. Those guys. So it was a great sport with some good characters and some good memories.
Who's the goalie that used to have the parrot?
Parrot.
There was a guy that had a parrot, and he would put it in the back of the goal.
Yeah, played at Kansas City, played with me in Harrisburg, too. You just put me on the spot.
I don't remember that.
I'll get a picture of it.
We got to find out who that is.
Yeah, we'll find out.
All right.
We'll find out.
So you're now with the Blast. You got a group of younger guys. You mentioned Barger. You mentioned some other guy, Koziel. Were they the guys that kind of fostered you into the league and taught you this is the way we do things, this is how you win, this is what you got to get really good at?
Yeah, Bill Ronson was another one that when I first came into the league was playing with the outdoor bays, and I think he the most was the one guy that said, all right, you're playing this position, you need to be in that spot, against learning how to use the walls, learning how to use the boards. I think he was the biggest influence at the beginning of my career.
Right. Yeah. Now let's take us through. You have success. You're playing. Now the younger guys come in. Did you take more of a leadership role in showing them this is how it's done, like Billy did for you, or was that more of a group effort between you and guys like Barry or Jason or Derek or Lance? The guys that you mentioned, was it more of a, was there one of you that taught better?
I think around that time, when the younger guys started coming in, it was myself, Lee Chishantret, Danny Kelly, David Bascom. So we had still a veteran core around when those guys were coming in. So I didn't have to shoulder it all myself. Obviously, when you were, I had Michelle Millwood was playing my position at that time. Neto was playing my position at that time.
Right.
So I feel like I helped them with a positional sense, but I didn't have to shoulder it all myself with those core guys that were there.
That's fascinating. When you drop those names, you realize how good the Blast were, because those are some players right there.
Top shelf players.
Yeah, and you time goes by and you forget, is Giuliano Salenza, one of the best finishers I've ever seen, and you put a ball in his foot, he'll kick it in the net. It's incredible what he can do. But when you take a goal scorer like that and surround him with the kind of talent you just mentioned, what a recipe for success.
Yeah, I think that's where Baltimore had the biggest success was we always filtered in some youth, but we're always able to keep the core veterans around them to help those youthful players come in.
So how did that, was that a natural transition to then go, hey, I'm playing, yeah, maybe the knees aren't working as well, maybe, I got other things going on in my life, I can't train the way I used to train, so now I'm going to coach, or how did you get on the other side of the wall where you're wearing a suit and tie?
Yeah, I think, for every player, you kind of fall off, you lose a step, so to speak, is what they call it. So it was partly that. I had an injury, ankle surgery 1 year. That helped me out. So coaching staff looked to me to help, to still help with the team. And so I started off as an assistant and was an assistant with Tim and Bobby McAvan, and then assistant with Danny Kelly. So that helped me as far as trying to guide players.
Yeah.
And then once you start getting a feel of, how responsive players are to you, you start to feel like, all right, this is something that I want to do.
Sure.
And just moved on forward from there.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a tough transition, but for you, as they say, Mother Nature's undefeated and Father Time's undefeated. So
what if Mother Nature got in a fight with Father Time?
That'd be unbelievable, wouldn't it?
That would be amazing.
It'd be awesome.
Right.
But as you can kind of accept that, hey, look, it's time now to get into the more coaching aspect of it. But did you feel like players were receptive to your information that you were kind of giving out?
I did. Luckily we had a good group of players at that time that were like sponges for the information, and so anything we passed along, we felt like they were receptive to, and when you start to see how players respond to your thoughts and everything, it kind of encourages you to do more. And so that's how I felt around that time. Yes, I had an injury and I wanted to come back from an injury. I always said to myself, I did not want an injury to put me out of the game.
Right.
So I did try to come back from that injury. I played one more season, and then after that, it just felt natural that the coaching bit would come on.
Yeah.
So we just had a referee in here last week, and we were talking about different things. But there's got to be a situation where you're just coaching now and you're in the game and it's an important game or whatever, and the officiating's horrible, and Tarik Walker gets his first ejection as a coach.
It actually happened not too long ago. I was coaching Harrisburg, and the referees were not going in our direction, and I had a pen in my hand, and somehow it just slipped out of my hand and went onto the field, and I got thrown out. So.
But in fairness, how slippery are some of those pens?
If they don't have the grips, I don't know how you can hold on to it.
I don't know how you can be held responsible.
I don't know how. It's just, inches away from the referee. I just don't know.
Was it a big call that kind of?
Yeah, we got a goal taken away from us in that play. So I guess he felt like I threw it, but I didn't throw it at him. So.
It's unbelievable.
Pens are slippery, folks. It happens. It happens. In fact, that is why Baltimore County schools are doing everything now on computers, because there's so many children being injured by slippery pens.
Slippery pens. That'll do it every time.
One other question before we move on. I got to ask this question. It boggles my mind. Not in a bad way. I don't lose sleep over it. Kenny Cooper used to wear a tuxedo to coach indoor soccer. Mm-hmm. Every coach since then wears a suit to coach indoor soccer. Why?
There's professionalism in coaching. I think when you look at other sports, basketball, football doesn't, but when you look at other sports, basketball, hockey, whatever you want to look at, their guys are in suits, and that's the professionalism of the sport.
But why? like why are you so okay, let's take football for example. Is Bill Belichick any less professional that he wears a sweatshirt with the sleeves cut off?
I mean, I guess not.
Right. It's not bad or good. I don't but it always struck me I used to think Kenny Cooper did it kind of as because it was an event. And then I watch some guys that they're wearing suits, and I always wonder, well, like I could never coach in a suit. You will never see me at a Perry Hall game or an FCUSA game wearing a suit. In fact, I was coaching at UMBC one time, and we were playing, I think it was Boston University, and the guy had a scarf. He had a suit and a scarf on, and I wanted to tackle him. I don't even know this guy. He's probably the nicest coach on the planet, but he's wearing
You see guys in MLS wear suits.
I think at some point someone did it, and now everyone else wanted to follow suit. Pardon the pun, but I think that's like probably what happened. Like someone did it to say, "Hey, I'm going to wear a suit today," because is there something that you gain out? I don't know. Like what's the guy, the German coach, Jurgi Löw? He comes with the club V-neck sweater,
right? Yeah,
But he has not a suit. I mean, like I guess there's different degrees of how they dress up, but. I don't know what the function.
You got the guys that dress like Pep because they want to be like Pep.
Sure,
they dress
sure.
with the sweaters and the tight jeans and
yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that's how they do it. I don't know.
I don't know, but I'm thinking about wearing a tuxedo in my next game.
Because you want to be like Cooper.
Because I want to be like Kenny Cooper. All right, we are off the crossbar. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. A while back, I had a lot of problems with my lower back. It started with a muscle called my piriformis. And when that locked up, my lower back locked up, I couldn't coach, I couldn't run, almost couldn't walk. I went to see Dr. Adam Maddox at Ideal Health Chiropractic, and within 3 sessions, I'm back on the soccer field. I'm able to run, I'm able to lift weights, I'm able to train, I'm able to compete. And not only is he a sponsor of the show, but he's a really, really good guy. I consider him a friend. Check him out if you have any back difficulties, any back pain, even if it's in your IT band in your leg. My man, Dr. Adam Maddox, is the best in the business. We have had a busy week of international soccer, folks. Some good, some bad. Miz, what are we jumping off with today?
The men's loss 3-0 to Venezuela. Gut-wrenching.
I have to ask this question. How the do you lose to Venezuela?
Tarik?
That you don't score goals.
Okay, that is the true answer. You lose because you don't score goals. But it's Venezuela. Venezuela, we can't lose to Venezuela. U.S. has things that Venezuela does not have, like, I don't know, running water comes to mind. We have running water. Electricity. We have electricity. Venezuela, not so much. I have a picture of the Venezuelan the warm-up field, their training grounds. Look at this.
Looks like a herring run.
It's worse than Herring Run. If the national team trained at Herring Run, they might have an excuse. We train on lavish fields. We train with the highest level of equipment and data and research, and we have $300 shoes, right? These guys are playing in bare feet.
It was very upsetting to watch the Venezuelan forward just torch our backs. I mean, now, having said that, there were some bounces that were favorable for them. The one where the ball hits the post and comes out, it's like directly to him and he's able to tap it in. But aside from that, just a poor performance overall.
But the shot that hit the post, no one defended at all.
Right.
It was like Greg Berhalter, by the way. Greg Berhalter. Greg. His name is spelled Greggg. Greg. Listen, Coach Greg. Defend! It's Venezuela! It just was tough to watch.
It is. It's. I mean, I will say this. Like, everybody is immediately jumping on Berhalter, and I mean, for me, it's like this. It's like I don't know that he's had enough body of work where we can really, judge him yet as far as like his performance. I think he has. He probably has a right to maybe have some time with the group and maybe try to develop the things that he wants to develop to play the way he wants to play and maybe, curtail the personnel to it. I don't know that he's had that amount of time yet. And, here in America, we're very, we want instant gratification all the time. And so I understand, but your point is correct. I mean, having said all that, in a country where we had 330 million and they have maybe 40 million, there has to be a better performance in there somewhere. There has to be a better 11 guys.
I'm going to say this. This is not an indictment on Greg Berhalter. It's not. It's not. I'm saying it goes much deeper. This starts with U.S. Soccer and what they've done from top to bottom. Now, maybe it'll get fixed. Maybe this is just one of those anomalies, but I'm not so sure. Tarik, what's your thought?
Oh, I think when you look at MLS and the development of players, non-U.S. players, it's really helped these other countries. Their better players are coming into MLS and developing. And so I really think that you can't really say, if the U.S. has a pool of 100 players, probably our bottom 100 players in our U.S. pool are about the same as the other countries. I can't really say that that we have superior players from 1 to 100 that can outmatch these other countries that we're playing friendlies against.
If you're playing for Grenada and you're playing Venezuela.
Oh, we take them.
Yeah, of course you would take them.
Take them.
How many people are in Grenada?
Probably about 25, 30.
25 people total in the country, and they could beat Venezuela.
If you're playing for Bob's Tavern on a Tuesday night at Maryland Sports Arena, can you take Venezuela?
Yeah, Crisco's could take Bob's Tavern. I think a Crisco's team would probably take Venezuela.
Okay.
So I got to want to say one thing, and I don't mean to be insulting here, or maybe I do. But does Greg Berhalter, does he remind you of anybody? Because you know who he reminds me of? You ever seen like any kind of alien documentary when they talk about the Greys?
The Greys.
And they come and they got these long arms. That's who he reminds me of. But I mean that in a loving way, the same way that I mean that Bob Bradley reminded me of Voldemort.
I would say this: if Greg Berhalter loses to Venezuela again, he's going to be gone. Because you only get one of those. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you only
for
kind of
sure.
get one of those, and at that point he would have had more time to instill his systems and all that, and it's just, it can't happen again.
But it feels like we're spinning wheels. Where do you think it goes wrong? Where do you think that the root of the spinning wheel starts? Where are we talking, Tarik?
Well, I agree with you completely. It starts from the bottom up. I mean, I think, some of the structures that we have in the U.S. soccer system itself is hindering the U.S. national team.
Like what things do you think, if you had to pick one or two, what things, if you are now put in charge of U.S. soccer, you are King Biscuit, you are sitting high upon the throne, you got to make changes. What's the first thing you do?
I think the first thing that I do is get rid of pay-to-play in some of our structures. Some of our academies where you have to pay to play, some of our state teams where you have to pay to play. I just don't feel like you get the best product when you do that. So that would be one thing that I would change, is some of the structures of ODP and some of the structures of our DA Academy. I would get rid of the pay-to-play in those structures.
Are you a fan of the DA Academy?
I am a fan of the DA, but it's not for everybody.
Right.
Your situations are different. Your locations in the country are different. And so I do like the DA system, but I don't think it's fit for every player.
Well, the flip side is, and we'll jump right into it on the other side, if we do a complete 180, the girls have the opposite problem. They're winning by too big a margin, some say, right?
Could Grenada beat Thailand? Could the U.S. men beat Thailand?
Yeah.
All right.
I would hope.
We're hanging on to the positives.
Well, now the question becomes, can the U.S. women beat the U.S. men?
Let's start off, can the U.S. women beat Venezuela?
I like our chances.
U.S. women put the hurt on Thailand. 13 goals. Now, instead of celebrating the fact that our women's team is very strong, they are catching grief for not being sportsmanlike, not calling off the dogs, running up the score. Your thoughts?
I don't mind the score. I think if it's 13, if it went to 20, I wouldn't mind running. I wouldn't call it running up the score when you're at that level of play. But I do think some of the celebrations were a bit over the top. Maybe because I didn't understand what the whole kick thing was.
Right.
That she maybe because I don't understand what she was doing. Maybe that's why I don't like it. But I do feel like some of the celebration was a little bit over the top. I don't mind the score being run up though.
And it's funny in youth soccer, you hear this all the time. Like we played our teams, 10U or whatever it is, young kids. We played this team, and every time they scored, it was like the World Cup, right?
Right.
So now this is the World Cup, okay? And it's like, but at what point? And it's everyone's going to have their different opinion about it. But for me, once the game's killed off and it's pretty much over, you're about taking care of the back, not affording a goal to the other team or conceding one. The game's over with. I'm resting my best players at that point. I get 3 changes and whatever. I'm going to make those changes, get my studs off the field, rest those kids, make sure that health is key and not giving up a goal is key. We've won. I know that there's goal differential involved and all that, but for me, after we get to 6, 7, it's like, okay, this thing's over with. Safety's number one, getting out of here healthy. Let's rest some kids. And, the excess celebrations, just not a huge fan. And the reason I say that is because if it were the other way around, if we're playing, France and it could happen and they're running up the score on us 13-0 and their girls are celebrating and having a good old time, the United States and Americans as a whole will be the first ones to complain about that. It's just, and no one can convince me otherwise.
You had said something to me, and it stuck with me. You said this about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, talking about high school soccer. And what you said was, when we're winning, I want us to enjoy it, but I don't want my sidelines to be a party.
Correct.
And that's kind of where I felt that we got. But I also see the flip side. It is not the United States women's soccer team job to stop playing soccer to the best of their ability. Mm. It's Thailand's job to stop them from scoring. And if you don't like what's going on in the game, well, it's partially your fault. And I cannot fault a woman for scoring a goal in a World Cup game. Maybe it's her first World Cup. Maybe she comes on as a substitute and it's her first goal as a national team player. I don't know. But I can't take away their joy and happiness and their celebration. Now, you get into a subjective area. Is that taunting? Is that bad sportsmanship? I don't know. I see it as joy of a big moment.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't mind the score. I think the score line was appropriate for what we saw. I can't fault players from wanting to go to goal, especially at that level of soccer. If we were at U10 soccer, I would say, all right, we're at 5 or 6, let's call the dogs off a bit. But at that World Cup level, scoring is what you do. And when you have the goal differentials and all that can come into play, when there's tiebreakers, I don't mind that. I just think that there are certain parts of the celebration that were a little bit over the top. And I think it went beyond being joyful.
Right, and fair enough. I mean, that is a valid point. But let's shift gears for 1 second. Let's stop talking about the possible negative. Let's talk about the women's national team. Playing Thailand or not, 13 goals sets a world record. It's not easy to do, and the speed that they showed, very impressive. Your thoughts?
No, I thought that it was a complete performance from top to bottom. I thought the defenders played well, obviously keeping a clean sheet. Offensively, they played well. They were clinical around the box, and so I thought they played great. I give them a 10 score out of 10. Yeah,
I don't know how you can complain. You can't complain they didn't score 14. Right. 2 touchdowns. Hey.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just so happy our team's very good. and they play the schedule that's in front of them. It's a responsibility of Thailand to be competitive, and if they're not, then they need to do some work. Just like for us in the men's side, we have some work to do. So, I'm happy, and if we score 15, we score 15. If we score 20, it's 20. Whatever it takes to get the job done. The girls got the job done. They're moving on into the next match, and hopefully they can make a serious run at this World Cup.
By the way, second Meet the Parents reference of the show. I don't know how it happens, but me and you, simpatico. Every time I hear the word Thailand, I think Jack Talk Thai.
Jack Talk Thai.
Jack Talk Thai real good. So, Jack Talk Thai.
The travel agents was Dor Svensson, wasn't it?
That you got me on. You have a better mind than I. That's why you have the mystery question of the day. How about Alex Morgan? Talk about her a little bit. Wow, what a performance.
Yeah, and considering she hadn't scored in a few games prior to the World Cup, I thought she had a really breakout game. And again, when you talk about clinical around the box, I mean, she had some left foot benders, some nice little flicks in the box, and I thought she was great.
Couldn't miss from inside. I mean, she was just dynamite the entire match.
And it's really great. It's really great that the United States always seems to have that finisher on the national team for the women, and that's something I wish if we had it on the men's side, it would make life a lot easier. But Alex Morgan, you watch her as a player develop and to where she is now. Do you think she's the best finisher in the world?
She's up there. There's a few others on the women's team that you're seeing in this tournament, but she's definitely in the conversation for me.
Yeah, I would definitely put her in the top 5. I think Carly Lloyd is up there as one of the top
for
finishers
sure
in the world, and so happy to have both of them on our squad.
Yeah. Now, where do you think the United States falls? So they've just won their opening game, huge, right? Most likely getting out of their bracket. Where do they fall? Are they favored to win, in your opinion? Do they get to the finals? Do they get to the semifinals? Where do you see them?
I mean, I see them going as far as they could potentially get into the final. They could end up winning this. I really think we have the pieces to win it all. I think we're going to need a few bounces. I think we're going to need to make sure that the performances by everyone is good. If collectively, if all the girls come in and they put forth their best performance in every match, I feel like we have enough to win it all.
Yeah, I think from the games that I've seen, I think France is going to be a contender. I think U.S. is going to be a contender. I thought Germany, although they didn't score a lot of goals, were pretty strong. So I see those three as teams that could go all the way.
Yeah, I tell you what, I will love it if there is a USA-France matchup. That would be just a fantastic game and worth the hype for sure.
Must-see TV, no doubt.
All right. Well, now, transitioning. Favorite part of the show, boss.
All right.
Do you know what this is?
I don't.
All right. So, you might not know this about Adam and me, but we are follically challenged.
All right.
And I will tell you this, Tarik, this was once a great civilization of hair. I had a mullet that was unbelievable. Dare I say Patrick Swayze-esque.
Okay.
And so we honor probably the best mullet of all time, Patrick Swayze, with this next segment. Did you ever have it long in the back?
Not long in the back, but I had it long. I had an afro in college. Senior year in college, I had a little bit of a puff.
Did you go round or did you go
fro.
up? Did you fade it?
No, it was round. It was round.
It's the one I could buy at Party City. It's
It
like
was
that,
round,
like
yeah.
that one.
Can
It
you
was
get
round.
me a picture of that?
I don't know if I took pictures of that, but
I got to see
I
it.
probably burned them too. Once I saw it. Yeah.
All right. So there are a lot of mullets we could use here. It could be Roadhouse, because Roadhouse, Dalton, that was a great mullet. Could be Point Break. Could be what else?
The bleach blonde mullet from Point Break. Yeah, Young Bloody had some great mullets in that movie.
Yeah, we could even go away from the mullet a little bit, and we could go with Outsiders,
Yeah.
when he was a greaser.
Dirty Dancing, if you like that movie.
A little bit of a little, yeah. Nobody puts baby in the corner,
Nobody.
Tarik. Nobody puts baby in the corner. So we give one player the Patrick Swayze Player of the Week and the right to earn the mullet and wear the mullet for a week. Tell us who it is this week, Miz.
I'm not sure that she needs any additional hair, but she's World Cup record-breaking Alex Morgan.
Alex Morgan, five goals against Thailand. 5. You ever score 5 on anybody?
I think I did, yeah, once.
Who'd you get?
Cleveland Crunch in the playoffs. I think it was 5 exactly.
Good
That's
night.
indoor, though.
Indoor. Yeah.
That's indoor.
Not
That is
outdoor.
outdoor.
Not
That is an incredible feat. So, here's what we're going to do.
But in fairness, wasn't there like 4 players that scored 5? Or no, never mind. That's
Mathematically,
wrong math.
that's
Right,
impossible.
okay.
But here we go, Miss Alex Morgan. We are taking you and giving you the Patrick Swayze Player of the Week. Look at that mullet. Just look at her. Just look at her. You thought she was gorgeous before. Much better now. All right. Tarik, thank you for coming by, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Tarik.
you. Thank you.
Oh my
Great
gosh.
show.
You know, we forgot to do. We ran out of time. Landon Donovan, our apologies. We will get to you in the next episode of Off the Crossbar. I am the coach, Pete Eibner. This is co-coach Adam the Miz Mizell. Special thanks to our very special guest, number 1 in your program, number 9 in your hearts, Tarik Walker.